Opening Microsoft Excel can feel a little intimidating. Rows, columns, formulas, where do you even start? But what if you could just ask Excel to do the work for you? In this video, I'll show you how to go from zero to confident and how Microsoft's new Copilot feature can help you analyze data, write formulas, and even build charts just by typing what you want. Hi everyone, Jamie here from Teachers Tech. Whether you're brand new to Excel or just looking to get comfortable with the basics, this step-by-step guide will walk you through everything you need to know. Entering and formatting data, creating formulas, sorting, filtering, and visualizing your information. And this time we'll explore the brand new Copilot in Excel, Microsoft AI assistant that helps you ask questions about your data and get instant answers. Before we jump in, I just want to mention I have lots of other Excel videos to help you keep building your skills from beginner all the way to advanced. Plus, you'll find plenty of other tech tutorials on my channel to make your work easier. And if you find this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you let me know by pressing that like button. It really helps support my channel. So first of all, where can you access Microsoft Excel? I'm going to show you a couple different ways that you can do this, but I'm going to be working from the desktop app when I start the demo. So the first thing is to log into Office 365 Copilot. You can access all your Microsoft apps there online, including Excel. So I'm going to go ahead and get signed in, just show you quickly where this is. I'm logged into my Microsoft 365 Copilot account, but whether you're logged into a school, work, personal, this should look and work the same. I'm logged into a business account. I don't have the paid for version of Copilot in this account. So what I'm showing you will be accessible right to whatever Microsoft 365 Copilot account you have. Over on the left, it defaults to the chat here, which works very similar to OpenAI's ChatGPT, built right into this. But down below, we have our apps. And if I click on it, you'll see where you can access all the Microsoft apps that are connected to your type of account. If I click on Microsoft Excel, I can open this up. It will give me quick access to any of the files I have saved in my OneDrive online, or I can create a brand new workbook. In fact, most of the things I show you here today, you would be able to do right from the online version of this. The desktop version that I'm going to switch to in a moment does have more powerful features into it, but the online version will provide most people with what they need. If I just hover over, you can see everything in the ribbon, and when I open up the other one, they'll work very, very, very similar. So if I go back over to my Microsoft 365 Copilot, I want to point out I have a different video. If you haven't logged in and checked this out, you have with your chat all the different things you can do in the chat. You can even create AI agents in this that can automate tasks, and I have videos on that I'll connect in the card and down below in the description. But now let's go open our desktop app, Microsoft Excel. I'm going to go ahead and open up Microsoft Excel. I just have it in my taskbar down below. The first thing I want to point out, you do need to be logged in to an account. If you're not logged in, it's going to force you to log in. This is the same account that I logged into Microsoft 365 Copilot with, just one of my demo ones. Whatever I do, even on the online version of Microsoft Excel, it's going to show up here. In fact, I created that blank Excel workbook and it's showing up here. So it's connected through the cloud. I'm going to go over on the left-hand side. You can see there's different pages that you can connect to. I'm just under the home one. If I go to new, I can still create a blank workbook from here. There's lots of templates that you can start from. I'm not going to go through them on this tutorial, but templates are a great way to save yourself a lot of time in creating powerful workbooks. Under the open here, this is where we can open from different spots. So I could be opening a file from my computer if I want. So even if I was going to go to this PC, you can see if I click on that, it will go to my computer. I could go from OneDrive, I can go from SharePoint. You can open up Excel files from wherever, especially when you're logged into your account. If I just go back to new, where I want to start though is from this blank workbook. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a workbook. Let's start with some basic terminology and layout inside Microsoft Excel. Now, if I go back up top here, when I opened up this new workbook, it's on the Home tab. And these are tabs across the top. Notice when I click on any of these tabs, like Data, Review, View, everything's changing underneath. If I click on Home again, it changed back. This is the ribbon right through here. And the ribbon is made up of a bunch of different groups. So if I look through this part right here, we have the font group and we have the alignment group, this styles group. So they group these things together. Whenever we see this little arrow like this is saying, hey, there's more features in this. So if I click on it, I open it up and I can even make some more adjustments. I'm going to close out of that. If I go to the File tab, this brings me back to where I can access a document that I need to open up from my computer or create a blank workbook. You'll see very similar to what we had before, and we can even save in this point. I'll come back to saving in a moment. If I hit the arrow back and I'm back to the Home tab, I want to point out, here's the Copilot AI that's built inside Microsoft Excel that I'm going to be showing later. And you should see this on your Microsoft Excel. Even if you're on the online, you should have access to this one. Let's look at the anatomy of this workbook that we created. Now, when it opened up, we got a sheet here. So down below, you can see it says Sheet 1. Now the sheets are going to be made up of columns and rows. So if I click on D here, you notice that it highlights the entire column. If I go ahead and click on 4, now that row. Where the column and the row intersect, so if I click here, this would be D4. And notice whatever cell I click in, it's going to show up here in the name box. So if I click over here, now it says B4. When you have a number of cells selected like this will be a range. So the range here would go from B2 all the way down to here to F6. So just some basic terminology. Now at the very bottom, we have Sheet 1. We can create more sheets than just one in a workbook. So if I hit the plus here, it went ahead and added Sheet 2. And I can change the names on these as well. So if I was going to double click where it says Sheet 2, I could type in data. I can also change the order of these sheets. So I could simply drag them around to place them where I want. So in the workbook, you're going to have your data inputted into these cells, but you can also have a number of different sheets that are going to be saved in that one workbook. Let's go ahead and enter in some data. And I'm just going to start with some column headings. I'm going to click in A1 and I'm just going to start typing, and I'm going to type rank. I'm going to click on B here and it will go to the next cell over, and I'm just going to go ahead and type movie title. And another way we can move over to the right is hit tab. So when I hit tab, it moves over to the right. Let's go ahead and write studio this time. Again, hit tab. I want to point out, if you hold shift down and hit tab, you'll go to the left. If you hit tab on its own, you go to the right. Let's go ahead and type in this time. We're going to type in US gross. So this will be the amount that the US took in. And then we'll go ahead and type international gross. And we're going to go one more time, worldwide gross. Just like this. Whoops, I better spell things correctly. Okay, the first thing I want to point out now, notice in a couple spots here that we can't see all the words here. So if I click in this cell, it actually says it. I can see it up here. It's not going to interfere with anything we put under in the column, but we can't see it. We can adjust the columns. So if I go ahead and just grab up here, so if I move my mouse in between the two columns, notice I get the double-headed arrow when I go in right in between. If I click and hold on my mouse, I can drag to the right and it increases the size. A quick way to do it is if I just double click and then it just automatically snaps to the correct size to fit what I need. So even in this one right now, I can just quickly go up to it, double click, and then the column width is adjusted. Now I'll even show you a quicker way we can do this. If all of a sudden, I'm going to make a few of these smaller here. If I wanted to adjust everything at once, if I click here and this selects everything on the entire sheet, I can go ahead now click anywhere in between any of them, and then they all adjust accordingly to the width that they need. The other thing I want to point out is if this is a little bit too small to see, you can increase the size. So down in the bottom right-hand corner down here, I'm just going to go ahead and zoom up a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. If you want to make any changes to any of the things you typed in, you need to double click in the cell. If all of a sudden, if I just click on the one cell here and try to type an S at the end, you'll notice how it deletes everything. I'm going to go ahead and press Control Z together. It undoes the last step. You can also undo up top here. So if I go ahead and double click in the cell, then I can go ahead and edit it like this. The other thing I can do on any cell that I click on, I can click in the formula bar and edit it up here as well. Now, I showed you with how to adjust the column widths on everything. You can do the same thing for the rows. You can see if I bring my mouse in between two rows, I can stretch them and it shows me what the height will be for that row. Let's move over to some basic formatting now. So if I look at any of these, and I'll just click on the cell A1 here that has rank in it, I can adjust things like font. So if you notice, just like Microsoft Word, I'll go ahead and pick a different font. If I go ahead and pick this one, you can see how it changed. I can increase the size of the font. And notice I'll have to be adjusting, in this case, the column width on this. So if I double click and then it changes from here. So I can make changes to things like the color here. So if I wanted it orange, I can make that adjustment. So if you're familiar with Microsoft Word, it's going to work very, very similar to this. If I click on this, you'll notice that we can adjust the size by just clicking on these to go smaller or larger this way, and how it adjusts the font size. Now, the other thing I want to point out is the border around. So by default, there's no border on any of these. So if I was going to print this, these won't show up in it. So if I wanted to have a border, I would need to add them. So in this case, let's say if I was going to go around the entire thing, I would need to select. So if I just pick one cell, notice right now it's under the underlined bottom. If I drop down, you can see all the different types of borders I can add to this. So if I wanted it to be thick outside borders, if I click it, now it goes all the way around that cell. If I click it again, it goes all the way around that cell. If I click here, you'll be able to see everything around this one cell right here. When you print it, those will show up. So if you need borders, you need to add them. So you can also see that you can go to no borders. If I select both of these, I can go to no borders again, and it will remove them. Or I could have undone with Control Z. There's also alignment. So on any of these, so if I pick movie titles, if I want it to be aligned at the top of the cell, if I click on it, you can see how it moves to the top, towards the bottom, depending on where you want, or in the middle. We have a number of different alignments that you can adjust. So if this was wider, and I can go to the left, to the right, and make all those changes. Now, the other thing you can do, you can go ahead and change the angle of how things are. So if I was going to have this angle counterclockwise, you can see as I adjust it, it will go through this way. If we wanted it text straight up, we can make those. Sometimes it's not going to, you don't want to make things wide, so you go to this way on your titles just to have things set up. Now I'm just going to go undo on these steps just to make sure you know where this basic formatting is. Now, a very quick way to do formatting, a lot of times this is the way that I'll do it, is to use the different styles. So if I go and click this entire row, I can apply styles to this. So we have cell styles. And so if I wanted it, let's say, to be a blue with a white accent, and I click on it, it did the entire row. Now, since I had the whole row selected, the entire row, so if I move over, it'll keep going. That's why it did the entire row. If I go back, Control Z, and I select just the area that I want, or I could do a single cell and go back to it, and I could pick a different color. I have a quick way to format it with the different cell styles. I went and got some data we could use to do this demo with, and I'll put the link down below in the description of this practice file so you can download it and copy along with me. Now, the first thing I just want to talk about what we're going to do to make some changes, and it's going to go back to alignment, and I just want to point this out. So let's say if we didn't want to have this super wide, and I know it's cutting things off, we can make sure that we wrap the text. So if I highlight through here and go to wrap the text, you can see now how it's putting it onto the different lines. So depending on what you want there, I'm just going to go Control Z, and I'll just put this back back to the way I had it before. Now, the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and add another row. So we can insert rows in between rows. We can do the same thing with columns. If I was going to go ahead up top and maybe I wanted a spot for a title for the whole spreadsheet, if I go and click on this row right here and right click, notice I can insert. So if I hit insert, it puts a row up above here. So if I go and type in A1 and I'll just say top grossing movies of all time. And so with this though, just so you know, it's not inflation adjusted. It's just the total gross without inflation. So notice it's over here and I just typed it in this one cell. And what happens if I want it to be centered in here? So what I could do is highlight everything in this row and I can do a merge. So to do a merge, it's right here. So merge and center. So it's a quick way, hit merge and center. So it just went ahead and put it up with all the cells that I merged and put it in right here. So remember, I could go ahead and make the adjustments like I showed you before. If we want to do any of these, we could go, let's say this 20% accent one and quickly make those adjustments or change the font, do all those things that we did before. And remember, you can change the names of your sheets down below. So if I was just going to double click on there and call this top movies, and that way, as we get a number of sheets in a workbook, it just makes it easier to organize. Now, the other thing I want to point out is saving your work. So since we have some data here, we have it set up, you can go up top. If you've never saved before, you can just go ahead and click save. And then it's going to be, where do you want this to save? So if I drop down, is it going to be on my OneDrive? Is it going to be in my documents? And I can go even more locations, which brings me back to under the file where I was before. And then I can pick where I want. So for this example, I'm just going to go ahead and save it on my computer. So I'll just go ahead and browse and I'll say on my desktop, and I have lots of different things here. I'm going to go inside this Excel and I'm going to call this top movies and hit save. So this is now saved on my computer locally. I could also go and save it into OneDrive if I want to access it through the cloud. Let's do a little bit more formatting here because these should be in dollars. So if I want to change them all at once, I can select the range that they're in, and up top here under number, and I'll show you a couple different ways you can do this. If I drop down, notice that there's the dollar sign. So, and if I drop down again over here, you can see I can choose from different countries. I'm just going to leave it with the dollar one. If I click it, instantly it went and put in the decimal and has the commas, has the separator. You can see as I increase the zero amounts after or decrease, I can make those changes. If I don't need the zero at the end, I can just do it like that. So some quick ways to make some formatting. Another thing you can do with anything you have selected, whether it's one cell or a range, if I right click, notice that there is format cells. So if I go to format cells, you can see you can make a lot of different changes in here. So if I go to number or general, I can change it back to just the general number, or if I wanted to go to currency, I could tell it how many decimal places. I can go get things a lot more exact than that first method I showed you, but usually just this quick way up here will match what you need for quickly adapting the format to your currencies. I think the most important part to learn about Microsoft Excel is going to be the use of the formulas and functions. This is what makes Excel so powerful. So we're going to spend the next little bit looking at this to try to give you a strong understanding. Let's go ahead and create a brand new sheet, and then we'll start running through some examples here. All right, let's dive right in with formulas. Think of a formula as your personal calculator built right into each cell of Excel. The most important rule to remember is this. Every single formula in Excel must start with an equal sign. That tells Excel, hey, I want you to calculate something. Let's select cell A1. I'm going to put the equal sign in to start with, saying, hey, you need to calculate something here. And I'm going to put a simple formula, 10 plus 5. And you can see right away it calculated. If I click on the cell, I can always see the formula that I typed in right inside the formula bar up here. If I double click on it, it will show me the formula that's in it. So if I click off, it will go back to just what the answer is. If you want to subtract, you would put your equal sign in. Let's go 8 minus 6. You can see it's 2. If we want to multiply, we're going to be using the asterisk sign. So we'll say equals 8 multiply 5 is 40. And with division, we're going to be using the forward slash. So we'll go equals 9 divided by 3 equals 3. And I do want to point out the order of operations matter here. So if I say equals 7 minus 5 multiplied by 2, now in this case, it's not going to be 7 minus 5 multiplied by 2. It's going to be 5 times 2 is 10, and it's going to subtract 7. It's going to be a negative answer here, negative 3. So remember, the order of operations matter. Now, that's useful, but where Excel really shows its power is with cell referencing. Take a look at the table that I have right now. If you're following along, just pause the video and quickly type this out. You can see that we have a place to put our total, which would be the price multiplied by 3. I could go to this cell and type in, like I said before, we could put equals. I could put 199 multiplied by 3, and I get my answer. But what happens if the quantity changes or the price changes? Well, then I'd have to go back and redo the formula for every one. And this is where you want to make sure you use cell referencing. I'm just going to delete this. And this time, again, we need to start with the equal sign. We are still going to do a calculation in here. I'm going to say equals, and I'm just going to select B2. I could type in B2 if I wanted to, but I'd like to just select. And so then I'm going to say what I want. This is going to be multiplication. I'll type my multiplication, the asterisk, and I'll click on quantity, and I'm going to hit enter. So I get the same answer, but the power is this. What happens if the quantity here turns to 7? And I hit enter, it automatically updates. Now you've turned this into a dynamic spreadsheet. The formula we just made uses what's called relative reference. Watch what happens when I click the little square at the corner of cell D2, the fill handle, and drag it down to D3. Excel automatically changed the formula in D3 to B3 times C3. The reference moved relative to the new cell. This is fantastic most of the times, but sometimes you need a cell reference to stay put. Let's add a sales tax calculation now. If I go up to F1, I'm just going to type tax rate here. And in G1, I'm just going to give a percentage, and I'm going to say 5%. Now, what I want to have happen, and I'm going to put the amount in this cell underneath the tax rate, I want to multiply the total here by the tax rate 5%, and I should get my answer. Let's give it a try based on what I showed you. So if we say equals, I'm going to make sure I cell reference D2. We're going to multiply. We're going to go to the 5%, hit enter, and we get 70 cents. That worked out fine. Now, remember what I showed you before when he drug down the formula by grabbing the handle here, dragging it down, and notice something didn't work right there. We have an error in there. Or let's see what happens. So if we double click on this, it shows me the different cells that got carried down. Now this is correct. I wanted to move to D3, but notice here it also moved down. So it's under relative right now. I don't want this G2 to be relative. I want it to be absolute. So absolute is when you make it so it doesn't move. So how we do this, I'm going to go and just delete these, and we'll do it one more time. So I put my formula in. So we'll say D2, we'll multiply it by the 5%. Now, if I don't want this to move at all, to lock it in place, I need to use dollar signs in front of the G and the 1, and it's not going to move. A quick way to do this is to use the F4 key on your keyboard. If I press it once, it automatically adds the dollar signs to it. So I could go ahead and add the dollar signs to it just by clicking on it, but the F4 key is a little bit of a shortcut to do that. I'm going to hit enter. Still got the same answer. Now if I drag it down like this, look, now we have 20 cents. If I double click on this cell, G1, this is an absolute right here. So this did not move, but this one did move. If I wanted both not to move, I would have to put dollar signs around each of them. So this is a really important thing to know about when you're working with different formulas in Microsoft Excel. Now that you've mastered self-referencing, let's talk about functions. Functions are pre-built formulas that are right inside Microsoft Excel that do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Let's start with a very simple common one, the sum function. And in the case here, we're just going to sum up these two numbers. Now, the old way you could do it just as self-referencing, hitting the equal sign, and you select and you use your addition and so on and get this. Now, with using a function, I'm going to show you a few different ways you can do this sum one. If I go ahead and put my equal sign in, and this is the way I use the most, but I'll show you others, I start typing sum. Here is my function that I want, and you can see adds all the numbers in a range of cells. So if I go ahead and select this one, I double clicked on it. Now we have the function, we have the parentheses, and inside the parentheses, you're going to have the arguments. And the sum one's pretty easy because all we need to do is have a range. And the range here is just going to be D2 to D3. So I could just type D2 to D3 in. So if I had a long list, I could type the top one and the bottom one. And a lot of times when I start the sum, it knows, it will just automatically sum that up. It will know the list. But I can go ahead and hit enter. And that's how easy it is to use the sum function. Another way you could use this, and I tell a lot of way for beginners to go up to here, is using this insert function. You can go and do a search up here for a certain function, and here's the sum one. If I go ahead and open this up, it walks you through step by step here, so it kind of explains it a little bit more. So as the functions get more complicated, this is a great way to kind of break up the different arguments that are inside the function. So in this case, I don't have to change much. I have the range here, so D2 to D3. That's going to work fine. And then we have it here. So another way I could get to the functions, if I go over to formulas over here, notice that we have lots of different ones that we can go through here, and I'll explain a few of these. But if we go to auto sum and I just click on this, it knew right away. It grabbed all of them here. It gave me the range, and I could just go ahead and hit enter. But let's try a few more functions just to show you the basics, so to get you started. If you're wanting to learn more about Excel, take a look at my other beginner Microsoft Excel videos. I'll put the links to them down below in the description and up above in the card. But now let's take the information that we've used and create our budget tracker. This is a pretty simple budget tracker. You can pause the video and just quickly type out what items that you feel would work for you the best. I'm just going to use the functions inside Microsoft Excel to quickly do this now. So we have our cost here. I'm going to go and do a total expenses. So in this case, this could be an auto sum, or I could go to the sum, but I'm under formulas. I'm going to click on auto sum. Is this the correct one? Well, we have an extra one in here. I'm just going to make sure I select the area that I want, and I hit enter. So right away, we have our total expenses. Now we can do other types of functions that are easy to from this drop down right here. Notice that we have average. So if I click average, is this what we want? No. We want to have this area selected. So I'm using ranges in these ones, and I'm going to hit enter. For the number of items, we have a count option as well. So if I drop down, you can see that we have count numbers, and this will count how many entries. So you can see easily that this is 4 right here, but if you had a long list, this is where it becomes powerful. These different functions will quickly take care of these jobs for you with just a simple click. Now, I showed you this quick way here. You can do the same thing that I showed you before. We could use the equal sign, start typing in sum. We select our formula, select the argument, the range here, and we can go through each one. So even if I start typing equal, then average, you'll see that will be one of the different functions. I can go and select the area, and we can do more and more. These are just a shortcut up here. Now, if anything changes, this will all update automatically. Here's an example. Maybe your rent goes up to $10,000. And you can see right away the total expenses and the average expenses jump right up. The number of items doesn't change because we're still only listing 4 items. But this is the power of using functions in Excel. Now let's go ahead and apply this to this data. If I go to the world gross, I could do this in a few different ways. I could add it, or I could use the function. Let's use the function approach. Start with our equals, and we'll just use a sum here, because all we need to do is highlight these two hit enter. Now, if I want to copy this down, I could drag it all the way down, or just simply, once I get the black crosshairs like this, double click, and it will automatically fill all the way down. Now, let's say if I want to try another thing, I want to know the percentage of the US gross of the total. I could go ahead and in another column, let's do this formula, say equals this, and we'll just use a basic formula divided by this equals this. So if we wanted it to be in percentage now, I could go ahead, click what I want. We'll say percentage, 27%, and let's copy this all the way down. So I can find out the percentage of the US of the total gross. If you ever see this, a bunch of hashtags in a row, don't worry, this is a quick fix. All it's saying is, hey, I don't have enough room to put this number, and you just can make your column wider. So if I double click, just like that, the issue is fixed. Okay, let's move over to another powerful feature of Microsoft Excel, and that's sorting and filtering. So let's go over to the Data tab right here, and we have Sort. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this. Let's say we want to sort this alphabetically. We're going to go Z to A. So as soon as I click on this, it's going to give me an error. Well, the reason it gives me an error is saying, well, we can go ahead and sort this, but nothing else is connected to it. So if I sort this, I want the studio and the numbers to stay with that given one. So they're saying, hey, we'll expand the selection, and that's what I would want. The other thing I could do is if I just highlight an area like this and go to Z to A, then it did sort everything. So now the Titanic is first, the ranking numbers aren't correct, but now everything is sorted alphabetically. I'm just going to go Control Z to put that back. If I highlighted everything here and go to sort, I can pick on how I want to sort. So if I want to sort by, let's say, US gross, and smallest to largest or largest to smallest, I can choose. You can see just by the simple drop down, I can hit OK. So now this is all based on from smallest to largest of US gross. So you can easily filter to find exactly what you're looking for, or making it easier to start analyzing the data. Now, the other thing you can do is to add filters. So if I go ahead and just as soon as I click filters, it's going to recognize across the top here which ones I can filter. So in this case, probably the studio is what I'd want to filter. And I could go and drop down, and you can see I can sort. But what I'm curious about is I just want to see individual or selected studios. So if I go ahead and I click select all, everything's unselected, select Walt Disney, I hit OK. So now it's showing me just Walt Disney. So if I had a long list, a lot longer than this one, you can see how all of a sudden you're taking this data and you can analyze it a lot better. I could go back to it, and then maybe I want to have also Sony on it and hit OK. So now I have all the Walt Disney ones in the top 10 and Sony. So use those two things, sorting and filter, to really dig down through your data so you can really understand it better. Before I jump over to Copilot and show you how that works, I want to show you how you can create some charts on your own. Now, let's say we want to create a chart of the top 10 movies, and we only want the worldwide gross with it. So what I'm going to do is highlight these movies here. If I go ahead and hold Control down on my keyboard now and go and over to the worldwide gross, and I'm just going to highlight this. See what happens there? Holding Control, now I've let go of Control, allows me to select different parts of the data. Now, if we go to Insert, this is where we can put our chart. So I can go and pick one of these ones here of these charts. I'm just going to click on Recommended. So when Recommended comes up, you can kind of see the ones that they're showing. I kind of think maybe this will probably be the best one for this example. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. So now I have this chart in here, and I can go ahead and make some changes. So probably instead of chart title, I'll probably want to call it Top Grossing Movies, and very easy to change like that. I want to point out this right here. So the chart elements, if I click on it, you can pick more things if you want it. The data table, the data, as I hover over it, it will show you what each of these does. So if you want a title on the axis titles, you can select that, and then you can go through and name them. I'm not going to bother on this one. We do have styles. that we can look through. Up top is where I quickly pick styles. So if I go through here and let's say I pick this one, or this one's easy to read, so I pick like this. So just like that, now we have this style just with a single click. Now there's a lot more that we can do to this, but I have that whole different video about how to create charts where I do a deeper dive, and I'll put a link to that and up above in the card and down below in the description so you can check that out. The first thing you need to know about working with Copilot is that you need to save your files in the cloud. So I'm going to go to File, and I already saved it once earlier on, but you could go to save a copy, and then to your OneDrive and make sure it's saved there. You can see this is already saved in my OneDrive, so that is accessible in the cloud. I'm going to go back now. I'm going to open up Copilot. If it's not saved in the cloud, you're going to get a message right here. So what can Copilot do for you? So before we try some of these prompts here, I just want to point out this Open Navigational Panel. This is just like what I showed you at the very beginning when I was in Microsoft 365 Copilot. All the prompts that I did over there, or the agent that I created, or any of these will show up here as well. So I'm just going to close that down. Now I could go ahead and start by asking it a question, or I could use one of the suggested prompts are there. So let's say analyze this workbook and give me interesting data insights. So this is a great way to speed up your workflow. It's going to go through this, and I'll click on it and I'll send this off. All right, let's test this out. You know what I'm going to do first is stretch this out so we can see this a little bit better. So this is the analysis that it did, top studio by worldwide gross. And remember, this isn't much data it's pulling from, so it did it pretty quick. But if you had large data and you're just asking questions, it's going to help you analyze. It even made this chart for me here. And I could go ahead and copy this preview. I could go display, you can see the display options, how I could display code preview. I could also download this as a PNG. So I could copy this over. If I want to put this back into here, I could just go Control V, Control C, Control V, and paste it into my data sheet here. But let's keep going down. I didn't ask it to make this chart, but it made it for me. You can see how everything is there. This can speed up creating your charts quite a bit. We have our studio rankings. We have the US versus international gross here. And we have anomalies. If you're wondering why it's talking like with a thing about dogs, it's because in a previous video I added to the memory of Copilot, and you can do that. You can get it to be giving you information. It will remember certain ways that you tell it to act. Now, if I keep going down, we have another chart that we could copy paste this in. And remember, all I did was ask it one question here. Now, let's try to see if you can do this, make things a little bit more complicated. I'm going to say add a column, name profit margin, assuming a 30% budget of the worldwide gross by calculating worldwide gross at 70. So here we go. I'll send this and see what happens. Now, the one thing to point out about using Copilot without the paid for version is it does do the work. It put it in right here, but not in my actual document here. Now, the other version, the paid for version, can do more things. I'll have a different video on that one. So just stay tuned for that, and I'll dive in deep to all the things it can do. But you can see right here, it's asking, would you like me to add this column to a downloadable version of Excel? And so I could say yes, and then I'd have that to download and open up again. It just won't change the document right here that I'm working on. Now you've seen it can analyze the data, it can create charts. I could ask it specifically to create charts. I can also get help with formulas. So here's a prompt they have, or I could just simply go ahead and ask a formula to calculate international percentages. I know this is a simple formula because it's just going to be a simple divide one. But if I just move down a little bit, it starts to explain to me how it is. So if you're a beginner at Excel, this is a great way to learn about it by just having a conversation with Copilot, because here's the formula. And then it's going to say, make sure to format the result as a percentage for clarity, just like the other things I showed you. You can go ahead and copy this and paste it into the spot that you need to. Let's close out a Copilot. I think an important thing to know about Copilot is that you should learn the basics first to understand how Microsoft Excel, and then I think Copilot can take you to another level. The last thing I just want to finish up with real quickly, and I have a separate video about this, is printing. If you do need to print something, you just go over to the file and there is print here, and you'll be able to see how you can pick what printer you need. Now, the other thing I want to point out with, if I go back, you can pick from a selection too. So if I select a certain area and then I go over to print again, notice that you can say print selected. So when I have print selected, it just shows what I have selected there. So you can go through and customize all the settings, but if you want to do more about printing, take a look at the other video that I made specifically about this. And that's it. You've just learned the basics of Microsoft Excel and how to start using Copilot to make your work a whole lot easier. Remember, Excel is one of those things that gets more powerful the more you practice, so keep exploring and try things out. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a like and check out my other Excel tutorials to keep building your skills. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.